corner. It is 13 minutes past 8. And you know what? It is the second hour. And we already spoke about this earlier on. I told you I'm going to have two amazing ladies in studio. They have done life coaching for a period of time. And yesterday I got to experience, had like a first-hand experience of what that entails. We'll talk about that in a bit. But right now,
pale Instagram na Uswazi King anasema nachagia nikiwa Kwale, but Facebook pale tuko na Duka Balke, Zakaria Hussein, Mike Mosaru, Dero Shans, Maestro Philo, Jacob Kofa na Journalist Double UKR anasema Bamba Mariango Kilifi Kambe Jans, well represented.
Thank you so much. So yesterday, as I said, I attended a coaching session at Swahili Pot Hub, and I got a first-hand experience on how effective it can be, especially when you're in a fix and if you're trying to find a solution or come up with a solution to a problem. In studio, I'm joined by Amy Black and Barrhonda White, who have both done lifetime coaching for a good period of time. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
We're well. Thanks for having us.
Honored to be here.
Good. I'm so happy you're here.
Mm-hmm.
How was your experience at the boat yesterday? I know, yeah. How was that?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't have expectations going in. At the same time, exceeded my expectations.
Yes.
And it was just a vibe.
Yeah.
Wonderful, beautiful energy, and it was a vibe.
Yeah.
So definitely a special opportunity to engage with everyone.
Oh, nice. Amy, what would you say has made you fall in love with Mombasa?
Oh, the people,
Yeah.
the warmth and the energy.
Yeah.
There's just so much future forward-looking energy and excitement, and so many amazing young people. And we've just been so well received. You know, people have just been so kind to us from the minute we got off the plane until right now. So we're very grateful.
Oh, great. So I want to start with, I want us to listen to something. Most of the time we say mentorship. I hear people talk about you need to have a mentor, right? And when you have a mentor, they get to impact your life in a different way. But then also there's the aspect of coaching. I didn't know. I didn't know if these two were different, right? But I have somebody who, Amy, has definitely had tremendous influence on his life, on how he does things, on how he views things. You know, let's listen in to see how Amy has influenced this person's life. Good morning.
Good morning, breakfast show, Miriam and Gona. Today's topic speaks to my heart. I think mentorship has been at the center of what myself and also Swahili Pot has been driving, because a lot of our young people have always requested for somebody to guide them to maneuver through life, decisions, how there are so many challenges in life that if you do not have somebody either to share with, and in the case of mentorship, somebody who is more experienced, somebody who is more senior, or somebody who just looks at things with a different eye. And a lot of our young people in the coast and even in Kenya have always been having this gap. They have not been having, a good number of them have not had the privilege for people who are standing by them as they go through hurdles in life or even the normal things in life. And you cannot blame the adults, because we have parents who are extremely busy, although that is not an excuse. So, and I think for us, like myself, and also what we do at Swahili Pot Hub, is to try and fit this gap for providing mentorship for young people. Now, today we have my coach, because a lot of people will see that, for example, I'm the chief mentor. I mentor a lot of other people, but also it's important for them to know that I'm also guided. I also have an accountability partner. And today I'm also honored to introduce Amy. Amy has came all the way from Washington, D.C. She's been my coach for the last couple of months. She's been my accountability partner. I've worked with her. I've been sharing with her some of the goals that I have. She's been a listening ear to guide me. So it's an honor that we are also having this physical session in Mombasa.
Well, that is Chief Mentor Mahmood Noor, and we popularly know him as Chief Mentor. Amy, you have been his coach. What is the role of a coach in someone's life?
Well, thank you for asking. I think it's a really important question.
Yeah.
There is a distinction in my mind when different people use the word coach in different ways, but when Barrhonda or I are talking about coaching, it's a professional opportunity to draw the wisdom out of someone that they already have. And so I think being a mentor does connote having some expertise or some life wisdom or something to impart upon somebody who may be younger or who may be less experienced. And there's a time and a place for that. We all, as Chief Mentor said, we all need mentors, and we should be seeking and finding them. Yeah. But I am more of a coach to Mahmood. He and I are peers. We're about the same age. We've had similar life experiences. And when we are working in a professional coaching session, what I'm doing is asking him questions about what he thinks to help him think more deeply, so that he has some space and some time in a week or in a month to step back and have someone who knows what he's dealing with ask him questions so that he can think more deeply and come to his own conclusions. And coaching is that. It is not me telling Mahmood what to do, but asking him questions so he can think more deeply about what he may want to do.
Does everyone then need a coach?
I don't know that everyone needs a coach, but I think everyone can benefit from a coach.
Yeah.
I have a coach. My life has been greatly impacted and improved by having one. So the beautiful thing about coaching is I do think it's accessible to all of us. Yeah. We can learn to be one another's coaches in responsible ways. And because it helps each of us go deeper into the wisdom that we already have, it's very powerful universally.
Yeah. You said you're saying you have a coach, and yesterday you also mentioned that you've been with your coach since 2016. Mm-hmm. What significant change have you seen in your life since you started working with your coach? Yes.
So I have been privileged to work with a woman, I'm from the United States and she's an American. And I was introduced to her through a leadership program that I was part of in 2016. Of course, that was 9 years ago. We all change a lot in 9 years. But at that time, I had particular professional needs and interests, and I was only at a certain point in my career, and I was striving and trying to figure out how do I break through. So she would help me really figure out what was the gap I was trying to close, and then help me identify for myself what were the steps I would be able to take to do that. I think it's important to say a lot of coaching engagements are much, much shorter, and the work that I've done, her name is Leslie, the work that I've done with Leslie has changed over time. So we will work on some fundamental ways of being that might be holding me back. And then as I improve and I start to actually get better in that area, we will identify a new area, because we're always growing. All of us are trying to grow in our leadership, right? Yeah. And it's hard to be a leader. And so once you become better at one thing, there's always somewhere else to go or be or do. And so she's helped me in multiple steps along the last 9 years with different things. Some of that has been in my professional life. That's how we started. Yeah. As I gained more trust with her, I did start involving her in some of my personal opportunities with friendships, or even I got married 3 years ago. And so as I was working on that relationship, there were some changes that she helped me understand that I needed to make.
So meaning a coach, it's not just about career progression. Mm-hmm. You can also involve them in your personal life.
You can choose to do that, yes.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Mm-hmm. Before I get to Barrhonda, let's separate, because initially Chief Mentor started with mentorship, right? And so there's mentorship and then there's coaching. Mm-hmm. What's the difference? Mm-hmm.
Barrhonda, would you like to answer?
Sure. So I would say the key difference, mentorship tends to be high on telling, lower on asking questions. Okay, so it's a heavy reliance on having expertise and knowledge, as Amy mentioned earlier, to pass on to someone else. Coaching is high on asking questions, lower on telling. So it's tapping into the agency within an individual, asking them questions to help them to find those answers that are already within them.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with so now I've identified that I have a problem, that I need, there's something I'm struggling with, right? But then I need a coach. And I want somebody that I can trust, that I can, just lay everything bare and not feel judged. How do I get to determine the right coach?
Yeah, great question. So some things to consider.
Yeah.
One is, what type of help are you wanting?
Yeah.
That could inform the coach that you work with. Two, what you need in order to trust. For many people, it's feeling a sense of, hey, my coach looks like me. Okay. My doctoral research was actually in that, and relatability was the number one factor that came up. So especially, I actually studied Black executives, Black leaders, and the number one thing for them was working with a coach where they felt like, hey, my coach understands my worldview. My coach understands my culture, and I don't have to define things, or I don't have to protect their feelings. And so having that space to be completely authentic and open. Also, I would say for some people, when you're working with a coach, your coach is going to be honest with you and share feedback to help you see yourself from a different lens. And so thinking about, how do you receive feedback best? So some coaches will offer feedback in a very nice way, the sandwich approach, where it's a nice feedback, then the feedback you really need to hear, and then nice feedback again. Some coaches offer the, very, very direct feedback, very straight. Sometimes it feels sour. Okay. And then some coaches, I would say, are in the middle. It's sugar-free, right? It's direct feedback, but it's in a way that you can consume. It still feels okay. Yeah. Right. So thinking about, that type of coach, what type of feedback you want to get from them. Also, there are some coaches that combine mentoring with the coaching approach. There are some coaches that honor the purity of coaching 100%. And so there are some, individuals that want to have that mixture. There are some individuals that are like, hey, don't give me any answers. I really just want you to help me think through things. So that's something else to consider. What's the style of coaching? What type of approach, feedback, coaching approach aligns more with your need. And no judgment here, but for some they're like, hey, I can work with anyone. For some, I've heard some say, hey, I want to work with a coach that does not look like me, so they can help to push my thinking on different perspectives. And then, for some, they're like, hey, I need a safe space, and I'll feel like it's a safe space to be vulnerable if I have a connection with my coach and I feel that my coach shares my experiences.
All right. Yesterday you mentioned chemistry calls. Like when you're determining the right coach for you, you can make calls. Could you break that down?
Sure. Chemistry calls equate to interviews.
Okay.
So it's interviewing a coach or 2 or 3 coaches to assess, right? Is this a coach that can honor my needs? And it's possible that you meet with all 3 and all 3 feel like, could be a great match. It's possible that there's one that really stands out. But what's most important is choosing a coach that you feel connection with. That's why we call it chemistry calls. But you feel a connection. You feel that, hey, this coach, they will understand me. They will bring their best selves, into the coaching, and they'll allow me to bring my best self to the coaching.
Okay.
Is there a specific point in life where one might feel that this is the right moment to have a coach? Because Emmy is talking about 9 years ago. Now, there is a young person listening, and they would be wondering, is there a specific age where maybe I should now start considering getting a coach?
I believe coaching can be helpful to people of all ages. I do think it's especially helpful in times of significant change, or when you're trying to figure a new thing out where you are going to need to adjust and be different than you've been in the past in order to achieve the goals that you have going forward. That's an especially, and that can happen at any age, right? But I think that's a hallmark of a time when it's especially helpful. And when I find in my own pursuit of coaching, it's often in times of pretty significant change, or when I know I'm going to really need to step up my leadership, that I will seek out my coach and say, hey, I'd like to dive in here for a few months on this issue.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to maybe give a piece of advice to those young ones, probably an estimation of the age where somebody might start considering getting a coach?
Oh, I think as young as, well, there are, I think in high school, or, 16, 17 years old, if one thing we experienced yesterday, and there's some important distinctions to make here, but yesterday we were with 120 young people, and Barrhonda created an environment where in groups, there was some light coaching going on, within 5 minutes. Now, that's different than the professional coaching environments that Barrhonda and I have been talking about for most of this session, where, there's usually a contract signed, there is explicit confidentiality agreed upon, there's an agreement between the coach and the coachee about what they're working on. So that's a professional space that that someone can choose to create for themselves. But what we experienced with 120 amazing young people yesterday, who had been, many of them, exposed to coaching for the first time, was within 5 minutes, they're serving one another through coaching skills. Like, it's a skill set that can be gained that is valuable at all ages. So I think, I'm not sure that there's a two. I'm wrestling with
specific age.
Yeah,
is there?
Yeah.
All right.
I think even young children, 8 or 9 years old, if trained, could provide value.
Yeah. Barrhonda, you started your session yesterday with gratitude.
Yes.
And this is something I do, but not consistently. Right? I'll go back home and say, I'm grateful for my little girl, and I'm grateful that we have a roof over our head, and I'm grateful that I woke up in the morning, right? Yes. How important, when we look at gratitude, how does gratitude play in a person's personal development, and what's the best way to go about it?
Oh, I love that question. I think gratitude is, well, one is every person should have a solid foundation, and each person can define what is needed for them to feel that they have a solid foundation. What I offer is gratitude is something to consider as being part of that foundation. In terms of a practice for gratitude, I know some that will create a gratitude jar where either every day, at the end of the day, or once a week on Friday, they have a desk with a jar, and then they have little paper, and they will take 5 minutes to reflect on, from my experiences today or this week, what am I grateful for? And they'll write each one down on an individual piece of paper. They'll fold it and put it in the jar. So then throughout the year, when they have moments, because we're human beings, we're emotionally fickle, when we have moments where we might feel a little low, you can just look at that jar on your desk or on your table and have that instant reminder of, hey, I'm going through whatever I'm going through right now, but there's a lot to be grateful for, right? And then it's also special at the end of the year as a ritual or a ceremony to open the jar and review everything all the notes that you have in the jar. Yeah.
So should we then, I like that. I'm going to get a gratitude jar.
Yes.
Should we then, do we write something by at the end of the day, or do we wait until the end of the week to put something in the jar? And also, sorry, it's going to be like a 3-piece. Do we, when something good happens, right now, right? Do I write it down and say, I want to remember this and put it down in the gratitude, jar? If Gonna buys me lunch today, I'm grateful for that, and then throw it in there.
It is up to the individual and their preference. For
Okay.
some, it is right in the moment. That is me because I have short-term memory. I will forget. For some, they have a routine and they know, okay, every Friday or every Wednesday, I'm going to sit down and think through things. There's some that may along the way will keep a voice memo on their phone. A lot of the smartphones have that capability, or they keep a little journal with them. Well, they will write it down in the moment. So it's up to each individual and their preference. I'd say whatever they can commit to, whatever approach that is, that's what they should do.
I want to take us to the exercise that you did yesterday at Swahili Pot Hub Foundation, where somebody presented a situation and those around the person, like the person in the circle, presented a situation and those around her ask questions. And you've also said that coaching is about questioning. When coaching, what questions should one ask?
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
So when coaching, right, the goal is to ask powerful questions, powerful open questions that will invite someone to think deeply and to think beyond their current way of thinking. So what helps is asking a question that starts with what or how. Rather than a question like could you, did you, would you, should you, because those type of questions will solicit a binary answer like a yes or no, which is very brief, and you don't really have to think hard to come up with that type of answer. Coaching is you want to challenge people in a good way, right, to think deeply and differently. So start with what or how. Asking a why question is technically an open-ended question. What we discussed yesterday, Amy shared, it can land on some people as being judgmental and put people on defense, right? So then rather than taking time to explore and think about things differently, they're defending themselves, which is less helpful. So avoid asking why questions. You also want to keep the questions concise and brief. Ideally, no more than 7 words. Also, it should be paced. So ask one question at a time. Because a lot of times, if you ask 3 or 4 questions at a time, the person, they're only going to remember one of those to answer. So asking one at a time and just the question. Sometimes when questions are asked, there's a setup for the question, then ask the question and then explain the question again. And, someone, they're processing all of that and it can slow down the work for them. So just ask a concise, open, well-paced, well-timed question. That tends to work the best.
So meaning as a coach, you don't really offer advice, do you? Because yesterday, again, the people who, in asking questions, the people who also said, I think you should do this. How do I draw the line between, okay, ask questions to help me get a solution, right? And also now somebody's saying, I think you should go in this direction. What's the balance?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the individual and their need.
Okay.
Right. So, and that's the important thing, as an individual, if you're going to ask someone to serve you in some way, be clear about what your need is. There's this thing that I heard from someone else that I borrowed called HHH. Right? Do you want me to hear you, help you, or handle it for you? So I would say before you approach someone, just think about, do you need someone to just hear you? Do you just need a sounding board? Or 2, do you need someone to help you think about things in a different way? That's coaching. Or 3, if you need someone to tell you what to do, right? Maybe you have no experience in this thing and you need more guidance and more direction, then that's handling it for you.
I like that. So there are people who just need somebody to hear them.
Yes.
Is that venting?
It's venting. It's also if someone, for some people, they think out loud. Right? They need to talk their thoughts out. And rather than talking to a wall, it helps to talk to another human being, even though that human being may not be saying a lot.
Okay, let's take some questions. Yes.
I was just going to say, I think when you're in a coaching space and you have that formal agreement with a coach, both parties are trying to advance forward action on behalf of the coachee, right? So the person is showing up knowing that they want to leave that conversation having made progress on something that's important to them. Yeah. And the coach is committed to that as well. And so you can find yourself in a venting session, but if you do, both people are able to understand, okay, hey, where are we trying to go? Which I think is an important distinction between, just venting with your friends, which is totally fine, but showing up in a professional space trying to move something important forward.
Yeah, I like that. Good morning, Malenga. How are you doing? He says it's enlightening listening to Emmy and Dr. Barrhonda. Now, key highlights. He says the mentorship or coaching journey doesn't end. The moment you have completely transformed in one area, you discover another area that you're weak in. That is, I think he's getting that from what you shared earlier on. And then he says, I am getting myself a gratitude jar. Definitely we are. A great practice. Most of the time we just whine and complain. We forget the abundance of blessings and favor we have.
Indeed.
I like that. That's sweet. Ayub, good morning. Ayub says, following up on the ongoing conversation at Swahili Pot FM, I've really been inspired by Coach Amy Black and Coach Barrhonda. Their insights are powerful. I'd love to have Coach Barrhonda as my mentor. You get it again. I feel a bit stuck, and I believe her guidance could really unlock my potential. So how can the station help me make this possible? He's mentioned stuck, and this will sound a bit general, but maybe let's do that exercise where I come to you and I say, I feel stuck in my life, in an area of my life. I feel stuck in my career. I'm not moving. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I have the skills, but I don't know what to do with all the skills. So for somebody who feels stuck, can we just, break that down? So okay. I'm in the circle today.
Like, ooh.
Yeah.
All right. So if someone comes and they said, "Hey, I feel stuck," and they're acknowledging they want different, but they're just not sure what that could be. I think one, it would be important to just baseline where they are. So explore a little bit more about how they're feeling. What are the indicators, right? That's leading them to feel in that moment that their current situation is not their preferred situation. Yeah. Then, starting to think about, all right, so what do you really want? And from a career perspective, so some have come to me and they're like, hey, I know I want a different career, but I'm really not sure. So one is to think about, what are you passionate about? All right. So there's actually a framework that I use called POPs.
POPs.
P-O-P-S. Okay. So it's not in order, but first it's make a list of what are your passions. Then, so if you have a piece of paper on the left side, you make your list of all your passions, everything that just gives you energy and lights you up. You will do it even if you're not paid to do it. Okay. Then on the right side, you're going to make a list of the S in POPs, which is skills. All the things that you're good at. There may be some things that you're good at, like you're naturally good at these things, but you may not like doing it. But you're just naturally, intrinsically really good at it. Yeah. And there could be some skills that you have nurtured and developed over time. So you make that list. Next, you want to look at those two lists and see, can you connect the dots anywhere? Yeah. Right? Where's there alignment between your passion and your skills? And for some, they will see clearly that there's alignment. For some, they may not. So in that case, you go to your passions list, you rank order, and you look at your number one, your number two, and then you ask yourself what needs to be true to develop skills that align with these passions. Okay. And then that will help to give some direction about where they go. Yeah. All right. So then the other P in POPs is create a plan. All right. Creating a plan to build up those skills, create a plan to create a career that aligns with the passion. And then the O in POPs is opportunity, right? You want that plan so that you are prepared for when the opportunity comes knocking or when you want to create your own opportunity for yourself.
I like that because now I'm thinking about it. Like you have to create an opportunity. So it doesn't come without a plan.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
deep. Yeah, that's very deep. Ayub, I think you got an answer here, right? Now, I want to look at when you start coaching somebody. So I decide that now I'm going for coaching, and you're walking me through this journey. How long would it determine to see progress? And if there is no progress, what happens? Does that mean I'm not of an open mind? What happens in that situation?
Maybe I can answer the first part if you want to tackle the second.
Yeah.
Sure. And Barrhonda said this yesterday to the group, but part of what it takes to make change is often time, right? You need enough time, particularly for significant change, to develop to identify what you want to do and then develop new habits in order to see that change through. And so a lot of times, most coaching engagements are at least 3 months. 3 to 6 months is sort of a typical time in a professional environment that you might want to be aware that you're entering into a coaching relationship to solve a particular semi-serious or important to you challenge. So, yeah, I think the time, giving yourself the time to accomplish the magnitude of what you're trying to do, being sure that whatever the challenge or the change is, you're giving yourself that time with the support of a coach. And then I'll let Barrhonda attend to when people get stuck. Even then, what have you experienced?
Well, we'll try. So yeah, if people get stuck and they're not making progress, it's possible that they just need more time. People evolve and grow and transform at different velocities. So it could just be they need more time. Another factor could be maybe it's not a good time for coaching because they're not ready to change. Right? A very important condition for effective coaching is that the individual is ready to change. They are motivated to change. If they're not motivated, the coaching, it might be a waste of time because they have to be mentally bought into it.
So it's not imposed.
It's not imposed. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They have to want it. The third possibility, if they're stuck, is that the coaching is surface level, and that the person, like, they're staying at the surface level, and that there's really something deeper at the root that's holding them back. And so as I think about those three scenarios and moments when I've worked with someone and it seemed like progression was happening slower, typically from my experience, it's because there was an underlying need that we hadn't tapped into yet or they hadn't exposed. Yeah. But once we got to that, like, that's where the real work was happening, right? So quick examples of underlying needs could be evaluation of values and beliefs, and maybe feeling like there's a tug, right, between those. And it could be some other things as well.
Yeah. Can I build on that?
Yes.
Just one other possibility that I think is just an important distinction, which is coaching versus getting another kind of professional help, which is working with a psychologist or a psychiatrist or someone who is really skilled and trained, usually for a really long time, in helping people resolve challenges in the past. And that's actually what coaching is not intended to be backward looking or to help people with trauma or deep issues that are better dealt with by somebody who's trained in that. And so that could sometimes be another reason where somebody is really struggling to move forward. There may be something quite significant that they need to work on in the past. And in that situation, as a coach, because I personally am not trained in that area, I would then try to refer them to somebody who could help with that issue. And then perhaps they could come back into coaching and be more prepared to move forward. But I think different professional skill sets really matter for the kind of challenge that people are facing. And one clear distinction that is just very important and that has been helpful: when we're coaching, we're looking ahead and we're trying to solve problems in the future, and we're working with people who are in a position in that moment in their lives where they can do that. And for some people, that may not be the case yet. And so to be sure to get the right help for the right challenge.
So if I come to you for coaching and I have underlying issues, let's say I'm dealing with grief, right? And this is what's hampering my growth. And in our coaching session, that comes up, or that comes up a lot. But it's not really the reason why I reached out to you for coaching, right? Because I'm reaching out to you because I want some development. But then you realize, Miriam, there's something else. So now from what you're saying is you would refer me to somebody else, or rather I need to deal with the underlying issues first.
It could be. It will depend on the individual.
Okay.
Right? There's some where, depending on their situation, they really do need to do that work, that reflection, healing work first before they can move forward. There's some scenarios where people can compartmentalize and recognize that, hey, there's something in my life or experience where I need to get, work with a psychotherapist. And then there's some aspects of my life that I'm ready for the journey ahead. So I can work with a coach too, right?
Okay.
It takes a village. So it is okay to work with multiple professional people helpers, I like to say.
Yeah. What is the role of an accountability partner?
I think, Mark mentioned that I had served that for him.
Yeah.
In a coaching relationship, you can offer to, if someone wants to be held accountable for a decision that they have made based on the coaching, then that is a service that you can build into the coaching. And so, so I think being an accountability partner can sometimes go along with coaching. It can also be something you do independent of that. So I think those are two different things, but that they can work together to really advance the goals of the coachee.
Yeah. Like, what does an accountability partner do? I'll give an example. A friend, we touch base, I think once a month when we're able to, and we just touch base trying to see where we are both financially. Are we getting in a lot of debt, or are we getting out of debt, right? It's something we do, and we're able to say, okay, I think this is what you need to do. This is what you need to invest in. This is what you need to look at. So we tend to hold each other accountable in that aspect. Is that part of also when we look at coaching? Does your coach become your accountability partner, or do I decide that I'm picking a friend and I'm getting this friend to help keep me on track on certain things?
I'd say both. All of the above. Okay. Right? Get all the help that you can.
Yeah.
Leverage your village.
Yeah.
Your coach absolutely can. Well, most likely the coach is going to invite you to think about what will accountability look like for you, because it is important for individuals to own their own accountability and to ask for help where needed. A coach will help you to proactively risk plan. As an example, all right, so you say you're going to do XYZ between now and the next time we meet. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you're going to do this? And if someone says anything less than an 8, then there's some doubt, right? So then explore, okay, what would need to be true for you to feel like a 9? What resources do you need? What support do you need? So a coach will help you to proactively think through things to improve your success and making progress.
I'm listening at this, and Chief Mentor has mentioned that in the coastal community especially, we normally have a lot of challenges looking at your community, and you tend to look at them. You're like, can I really get a coach from this area or this village? Can we then tap into the digital era and digital platforms, so that we can get all these sessions done online throughout from the word go?
I have two thoughts on that. One, I think the talent and wisdom and ability of people in this region is exceptional. And so I have very little doubt that there's the ability for especially young people to equip themselves with coaching skills and be just as useful to one another as it would be to seek that sort of support in other places. So I just think you're very well equipped to pursue that. So that is one thing. And that said, there are many resources online and ways that people can use resources from outside their community in order to be more skilled with each other. I don't know if you have any that you would recommend, or what your thoughts are, Barrhonda, on that piece.
I agree with what you said. One, to scale coaching and make it more accessible. Just experienced yesterday, 5 minutes, they picked up on coaching skills, right? So I think one opportunity is to go a little bit deeper on developing the coaching skills so that everyone can, there's this thing called peer coaching. So everyone can coach each other, right? A little bit more. And then also there are coaches all around the globe. And we have this wonderful technology, right? Virtual coaching using Zoom or Teams or other platforms. So that's a possibility as well.
All right. There's a question here. In the past, he says, I feel that I'm multi-talented, especially in leadership, creativity, and independence. When I put my focus into something, I usually get it done. Now, in the past, I've tried to do many things at once, but now I want to narrow down and focus on what aligns with my core strength. How can I go about this effectively? It's a coaching session.
It's a coaching session, but it goes back to the POPs model that I shared. Take time, just sit down and evaluate, right? What are your passions? What skills are needed in order to be effective, to have an effective career that aligns with that passion? So it's some inner work. And then once they do that, if they need some help with moving forward, great time to tag in a coach.
All right. Good morning, Kevin. Kevin says, at what point should a coach notice that? Should somebody notice that this is a bad coach for me?
I think in effective coaching situations, there's an ease, there's a rapport. The coachee needs to feel that they can trust this person and that they're able to be themselves, and they're not thinking about the coach. They're able to think about themselves and their own issues. And I think if you discover in multiple sessions that somehow that space is not being created for you, and it may not even be the coach's fault, but if for whatever reason, this is why the chemistry calls are important. If you just feel like you can't be yourself, you can't, if you're still constrained in the ways that we often are when we're worried about what other people are thinking, you're not going to be able to make the progress. And so those would be times that I would encourage somebody to consider finding another coach.
Okay. I want to bring this next question to a workplace. Yesterday we spoke about situational leadership as well, right? First is, does every leader, can every leader be a coach? And how does it play out in leadership?
So I would offer every leader is not a coach. Every leader can be a coach if they invest in developing their skills in that way. Also, it requires a mindset shift, a shift from I am leader and I'm leading from the front and it's everything is my way and everyone's following me, to shifting to perhaps leading from the middle or leading from behind. And it's and then having a servant leadership mindset. And with that servant leadership mindset, it's recognizing, hey, the individuals that are working with me, I have more responsibility to guide them and ensure that they have the tools and resources they need to be successful. But for them, what do they need? And how do I need to shift to meet them where they are? They may need mentoring. They may need coaching. They may need, as a leader, they may need me to just take a step back and give them space.
Yes. Okay, it's because I wanted you to break down the stages. There's D1, D2. So when you're coaching, so you're in a space where you have a team, and there's somebody who's an amateur. They just got onto this job. They're learning, right? They're very green and they're learning. And then as we're learning a year, 2 years, we always talk about experience in a workplace. So there are stages to developing that. As a leader, what's your role in developing the team that you are working with? So as a leader, your role is to, one, ensure that there's clarity about the vision and the objectives, right? And then having a clear understanding of the talent that's needed in order to achieve that vision and the objectives. And as you bring people in,
for their talents, assessing where are they on the development curve. So the framework is situational leadership. This is something that's been around for a long time. Anyone can Google, and the information will be on the internet. And so it shares that each individual, the development curve is 4 phases. There's development stage or phase 1, which is where they're very green, they're very new to something, and so they need a lot of direction, and maybe some hand holding, maybe some mentoring.
Yeah.
Their confidence and competence tends to be low at that stage. Over time, as they're getting help from their leader, they'll shift into development stage 2.
Yeah.
And that's where their competence starts to increase. Confidence is slowly increasing, but there's still a little distance with competence.
Yeah.
Their leaders should, at that point, start to coach them, right? Still directing a little bit, but they start to shift to coaching and inviting them to think through things.
Yeah.
So that they start to realize, wow, I actually know the answer when my leader asks me, right? That's going to help to build their confidence. So over time, they're going to shift into D3, development stage 3. And that's where their competence is really high. Their confidence is starting to grow, but there's a little bit of space. So the leader, that's when they're dialing back a little bit and giving people space to experiment and try different things and realize that they do have the agency. They can do what's needed. And then eventually they'll get to stage 4, where they are fully competent, fully confident. It's a great place to be in. And then the leader at that point, they respect and honor that this person is in D4, and they just delegate and say, hey, I'm here if you need me, but I trust that you have this.
All right, then. Thank you so much. We have been speaking to Amy Black and Barrhonda White. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been good having you here. Good morning.